I'm not the one who's so far away when I feel the snake bite into my veins. No, this is not a Godsmack concert. This is Benvenue doing one of my impressions. Welcome to Benvenue's Corner and the continuing saga of the Orlando Sentinels and my desire to become a play-by-play broadcaster. Yes, I am using a slightly cheesier voice. Just to see what that sounds like over these airwaves. Last episode, I introduced you to the defense and showed you some of the stats for the season. For this episode, I plan on going over the standings and the schedule, some of the results, to kind of give you an idea of what this roller coaster ride has been like for this team. And you would think that wouldn't be the case, as you can see our record there. I'll get to that in a moment. And then, you see, we play the Houston Voyagers next, and I think I'll go over their roster and point out some of their key players and maybe take a look at their team rankings to see how they compare to us, what their strengths and weaknesses might be. So you can see in our AFC East division that we are tied with the Columbus Explorers at a record of 7-2. There are only 3 7-2 teams in the entire NFL right now, the other one being the New Orleans Saints. But the Bulls and Huskies, even though they are 3rd and 4th place, one is 5-4, the other is 4-5, so technically anybody could still win this division depending on what happens in it. And here we go. Here's your 3 7-2 teams. You got the Saints, Explorers, and Sentinels, and a lot of teams at 6-3, the Bisons, Eagles, Giants, Bulldogs, Miners, and Dreadnoughts. And then the just above 500 teams, you have the Washington football team, the Mexico City Conquistadors, the Minnesota Vikings, the Brooklyn Bulls, the Portland Snowhawks, the Houston Voyagers, which we're going to be playing next, so the Dublin Celtic Tigers, and under 500, we have the Bears, the Buccaneers, the Huskies, the Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers, the Elks. Then you have your, we're just barely hanging on here, the Black Knights at 3-5-1, the Memphis Egyptians, Falcons, Cowboys, Armadillos, and Crusaders, all at 3-6. And then the ones that are probably going to be fighting for the number 1 pick overall, the 2-6-1 Panthers, the 2-7 Tigers, and the 1-8 Lions. So there you go for the standings in the entire NFL. I was going to go over the schedule now for this team so that you can see just what the schedule and results have been. And you can see our first game was a loss to the Explorers that were tied with the division lead with. A field goal made the difference in that game. The second game we won 26-21, so there is that within margin of 7 points thing. We won against the Black Knights 22-20. There was that safety that I told you won a game. That was Tanner Malone's safety that won that game for us in the 4th quarter. Then we had an early bye, which I don't really care for. And then against the Bulldogs, it was an offensive explosion for both teams, and we narrowly won that one 33-30 with a last-minute field goal. And then we faced the Huskies, and we got blown out. That was our first real lopsided loss there, where the offense just went in the tank, and we couldn't get anything going. Then we have an 18-6 victory over the Lions, and then a blowout, a shutout of the Tigers. So we go from getting blown out to blowing out another team and shutting them out within a series of 3 games. Then against the Egyptians, we win 17-9. And then all of a sudden, boom, What in the world happened here? Well, this is actually the very first game where I changed the offensive philosophy from a vertical power run to the multiple zone run. And my goodness, it started off looking like a close game. Chicago actually marched down the field against us and got a touchdown early. But then after that, boy, that second quarter, it was all over. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it. It was just turnovers. It was basically turnovers was the story of the game. And then after the score started getting a little lopsided, it actually looked like on the field that the Bears just gave up. Their defensive players just looked like they stopped playing football. You can see Stallings here did not have a terrible game. 266, 2 touchdowns with 2 picks. And then you can see the 6 sacks. We were just in his face all day long. So he was not completing a whole lot of passes. And that might have been part of the difference here. Keeper Byrne, 2 touchdown, no interception game. I'd like to see a whole lot more of those from him. He didn't have to pass the ball that much because you're going to see what happened in the running game. I told you about the Dalton triplet breakout game. And it was this one. 22 carries, 195 yards. He had a huge 86-yard touchdown run. He ran the ball so effectively that I basically sat him out at the half and let Kerr take over. He almost had 100 yards, and he had a 27-yard run, but he also had 2 touchdowns. Triplet had 2. Coughed up the football once, and that's something I'm going to have to look at with Tyson. And you can see their leading rusher was Chris Copley with 44 yards on 14 carries. Not very productive. And you can see, like I said, I was making a conservative trying to get Nickel a few more carries. He did pretty well in limited duty. There's Stackhouse getting a few carries for the 3rd down back. And he ran a... that must have been some kind of screen pass that he just on the receiving side. See, this is why I thought I was in trouble, because Cole Goodrich to start off the game was just destroying us. He was catching everything, he was getting big gains, and I thought, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And then Kashawn Favors, he had a pretty good game against us too. And then there's Monte Sherman. So you see all these guys with big receiving numbers, and that's the boom or bust mentality of this defense. They let up a lot of yards, but they sometimes make up for it in fumble recoveries, in interceptions. So if the turnover battle goes in our favor, well then it's a different story. You can see Christian Stackhouse, the receiving back, and slot receiver. There's Perry Wood with a touchdown. Parrish McCarthy, Sullivan, and you see not a whole lot of passing prowess here, but we didn't really need to because the running game was so good. We're not going to look at blocking. Defensively, their defense was on the field a lot, so their tackling and defensive stats are going to be a little bit skewed compared to ours. But you can see Hubbard, their free safety, making a lot of tackles. Their strong safety, making a lot of tackles. And left outside linebacker, middle linebacker. For us, it was Bates, 9 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Speaking of sacks, let's just go. Tanner Malone added another 1.5 sacks. The sack leader, Blanton had 1, Barker had 1, Felton had 1, and none for the Chicago Bears. Interceptions, Denario Blanton, and there's the boomer bust Julius Lamb, and I think he took this one to the house. Pretty sure this was his touchdown. Yes, it was. We had safety in the game from Tanner Malone, his second one, and the forced fumbles, 3 of them, and we recovered 2 of them. So the turnover difference you're going to see when we go over the team stats is we're the best team in turnover difference, and that's why I believe, despite our sputtering offense and our suspect defense, that we're winning so many football games. You can see that McGuire had trouble in the wind in Chicago, 8 for 8 on extra points. When you're kicking 8 extra points, you know you're having a good day. But you see, he made the 30-yard one, and then trouble from 50 or more again. That's typical. punting-wise, their punter was punting a lot. Inside the 24, Parsons 2 out of 3 went inside the 20, so he's just amazing. And the one that didn't was a touchback. Kick return, pretty standard stuff here. Pretty typical day for Tyson to get the 24-yard average there. Johnson, he had a good day returning for them. And the punt return touchdown game is the only touchdown I've seen on a punt return in Madden 20 this whole time I've been playing. So there you see the kind of lopsided season we've had, and why I changed the offense, because despite our record, I wasn't happy with how exactly it was playing out on the field. I switched over and got this ridiculous lopsided game. I really don't want to see too many of these. I mean, blowouts do happen. There's high 50-point games. I think there was a 60-point game at one point. But if this becomes the norm, and I keep seeing this, I'm going to have to adjust something with the sliders. I am using the Relocation Football League sliders, and they have been performing very well. I just think this was just one of those days where the Bears just couldn't do anything right. So there you go with that. What else was I going to go over? Oh yeah, the team that we're going to face is the Houston Voyagers. So let's take a look at the Voyagers roster. And they are going to be just below us. And here we go. So Nash Lentz, the veteran quarterback, and they got an even older backup. So they're both trending downward on their career. Not a strong throwing arm, fairly accurate, but not on the deep ball, so expect them to dink and dunk and do a West Coast style attack. Let's take a look at his stats on the year, and let's see how he's doing. So you can see his career. He spent a lot of time on the bench before he got to start. Had a rocky first year as a starter, but then did pretty well in his second year. But this year, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's a little bit better than Burns' 11 and 7. Let's see, his deepest pass is 26 yards, so that kind of reinforces that whole weak arm and not great deep accuracy. But he's not having a bad year for them. 70% completions is good. 235 yards. So there's the quarterback. So quarterback's not really their strong suit, but, you know, he's a game manager type. At running back, Sean Dickerson is more of a power back, so that could give us some trouble with that 92 break tackle, stiff arming, not elusive, but a big power back, if he gets ahead of steam, could be trouble for our defense. We're not kind of built for that kind of slug it out power running defense. I don't think we match up well against that. Forbes, the backup, another power-based runner. And then they got a little speed guy in Rashad Quarles. At fullback, they have Toby Moore. Decent blocker. Wide receiver, Elijah Jacobs. That's kind of like our Perry Wood. Not the fastest guy in the world, but tall, strong. Special catch is good jumping and releasing. I mean, that's a Perry Wood clone, so this guy's going to give us trouble. Kershaw's really going to have to lock this guy down. Another tall receiver in Julius Buchanan. Possession type guy, decent hands. And we have third receiver, Chester, George Childress. Some decent receiving options. The tight end, Will Newton, Tyrone Holliman, good pairing of tight ends there. Left tackle, Richie Hawthorne, decent start. And this could be a problem for them. Their starting left guard is injured. I don't think William Flowers will be playing. Simon Bidwell, Matt Tracy, maybe one of these guys slides over to guard. Dylan Fisher, Barry Widmer. Widmer's probably going to move over to left guard for them. We got Raphael Edmonds and Greg Vincent. So decent offensive line. Superstar to left end could be giving us trouble all day long. Rashad Hankins on the other side. Kirkland Lewis is a main backup. Timmy Simon. Looks like a pretty strong defensive tackle there. Got some good depth in Austin and Bishop. Left outside linebacker Paris Shepard. Von Monk the backup. Superstar Zone Hawk Wesley Windsor. And Drew Halen the backup. That could be trouble. And right outside linebacker Pearson Tyson. Looks like a speed rusher. Rashad Royal. So they could be giving us some trouble. And then they have Earl Lloyd, their superstar, covered corner. Might be susceptible to the deep pass. Got speed but not agility. Betts. That's a good free safety. Got that nice speed, acceleration, and agility. Good tackler. Decent jumping. And strong safety superstar. Big man, Terrell Buggs. He's got enough speed to matter. Might be able to take advantage of that agility. Kicker is just a hole. Kicker is not the best leg. Punter So there. One major injury. And how do the Voyagers rank on total offense? Well, not that great. So let's see where we are. We're below them in total offense. Like I said, our passing game really doesn't do much. It's the running game for us that does. So offense. Got the Voyagers right there within, let's see, maybe middle of the pack. We're not quite as good. Passing offense is where we're really, we're worse than the league in passing offense. Voyagers, about middle of the road rushing. We need the league in rushing. And the Voyagers are top. So, ground game is pretty much equal. Passing game is much better. Passing touchdowns, we're near. We only have 12. Rushing touchdowns. Voyagers have 12. We only have. We don't score we don't score the ball in the end zone very much. We rely on field goals and turnovers. Our defense. Speaking of defense, total defense, this is by lowest, so you can see the Voyagers have a very good defense. But what do they do? They're defending the pass very well. We're right behind them. Both defend the pass very well. And they're also very good against it. We are not. Against the pass. Or the run, rather. So, it looks pretty even on paper. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out on the field. So there we go. I'm going to end this video now. You've gotten an idea of where we are in the league. This team is playing well. Never won more than 5 games in a season since I've been watching them, and we've already approached that with 7 wins. I do some of Tennessee's points already to upgrade the weekly bonus. So that's why you only have 400 experience right now despite all those wins. You've seen the season standings, first goal, how this is going, how this all post a riot defense. It's not very consistent. Kind of what I'm looking for. And you can see if that is an anomaly with that 61-17 blowout. So we're going to end it here. Next time you see me, we're going to be broadcasting I hope all of you are doing well, happy, healthy, and having a good time. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.